Hello again, my fellow cancer warriors. I want to talk about anxiety and learned behaviour. Understanding this has helped me so much, and I am not a therapist, I'm not a professional, I've said that before. It's just what I have learned and how others have helped me and what I put into practice as I carry on with my life. So first of all, we've all had life experiences, whether it's bereavement or hearing some shocking news that leave a mark on us. And I was told that these things leave a permanent mark, but then it's just overtaken by other events or how you deal with it. But in the case of a cancer diagnosis, you have your initial diagnosis, or you discover a lump yourself or a change, and then you go through one shock after another. Usually it would be to see your doctor, and then the GP will say, yes, I think I should refer you. Hopefully they say, no, I think you're fine. But if they say that, then that's a shock that you're dealing with. And then you have to wait for your next appointment to go for the mammogram and biopsy and ultrasound. Then you have to wait for the result of that. Then when you get that diagnosis, that is a shock, that is a blow. And then after that, in my case, when I was diagnosed as being HER2 positive, that was a body blow. I didn't really understand much about it at the time, and that is worse when you don't know what it means for you. And coupled with the fact that I then had to have chemotherapy, and I was in quite a low place. After that, I thought, well, I know what's ahead, but I had my chemotherapy first, and they then looked at how the tumour was shrinking. And after the first 3 rounds, then it had shrunk by half, and I was elated. I thought, you know, this is great, I'm on the right track. After the second 3, with the different chemotherapy, I went for my ultrasound, and there were 2 of them there, and they were sort of talking across me and giving each other looks and using strange sort of language, which I picked up on and assumed the worst. And they were saying things, well, it's no bigger. And I went away and had to ring my breast care nurse because, again, I was in shock because I didn't know what was going on. I just knew something was being concealed from me. It turned out that it was just the second lot of chemo hadn't affected the tumour or reduced the size of it. It wasn't anything major, but in my mind it was, because I was already in this learned behaviour pattern from each of the shocks along the way. So I would overreact by that time. Now after that, I had my surgery, and then obviously you go back to see whether they've got rid of all of the cancer or not, whether it's been a success. And even the act of going and sitting outside your surgeon's office and maybe waiting, in my case they were running behind, so I was waiting over an hour, and all sorts of things are in your mind, and your body is sort of preparing you for the worst, so you're in shock again. In that case, it was good news and it was a huge relief. But the imprint on my body, on my emotions, on my brain, was another shock. So this all built up to the point where even something which is minor, and I would overreact, and I would become weepy, and I would feel like a cloud had descended on me. And it was all to do with this learned behaviour. My body and my mind was preparing myself for the worst to help to reduce the effects on me, I guess. And all our bodies do that. So how do you unlearn this behaviour? The first thing is to be aware of it. Now that I know that, sometimes late afternoon, a few things have gone wrong during the day and I feel a sense of dread, that it is just my body remembering how it reacted before to the cancer diagnosis and things along the way, and giving me the same sort of sensation. So then I say to myself, this is just learned behaviour, I must unlearn it, and I know that in the morning I'll wake up and I will feel different. And in the morning I wake up and I do feel different. I'm ready to face another day. I've got a much more positive attitude, and I look back on how I'd overreacted the day before and I realise that it was because of my learned behaviour and being over anxious about smaller things. It's strange, you'd think that having had cancer, small things wouldn't bother you, but I feel it's almost as if I've burnt myself with the cancer diagnosis and all I went through, and that I'm oversensitive now to other things that happen. And that's why I didn't go back to my job full time, and eventually I retired because it was a stressful job and I really felt that my learned behaviour and anxiety wouldn't work favourably with a stressful job. And I wanted to reduce my anxiety levels to way lower than they'd been for many years. So one of the things that helps is time passing. Each year now I feel more positive towards the next annual mammogram, but the second year that I had an annual mammogram, I had a false alarm, and that set me back with my learned behaviour, because after 2 weeks I thought, well, I must be fine, they would have let me know by now, but it had been overlooked, and I got a phone call which said, come now, we found a shadow. And my legs buckled and I didn't know where I was, what was going on. I was in a real panic, and that learned behaviour just came straight back. And the day after I had the biopsy and the mammogram and the ultrasound for that false alarm, we were moving my daughter, she moved house, and my car was parked outside of her house, and some boys on bikes came along, smashed the window, stole my husband's phone and wallet and rode off. And we were just unloading things. It was locked, but I came out and I stood in the street and I swore at the top of my lungs in both directions so that they would hear, the lads on bikes. And I think it was just the pent-up emotion of that scare. A week later I learned that it was nothing, scar tissue, nothing to be concerned about. But that experience set me back, because then the next mammogram I was really anxious again. But as I said, with each year that's passed, it's got better. So if you can understand why you are so anxious, then you can stop and think about it, find a distraction, tell yourself that it will be better in the morning, and just completely understand why you are behaving the way you are. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Just talk yourself down, distract yourself, and tomorrow is another day.